W.C. Fields described entertainer Bert Williams as the funniest man I ever saw and the saddest man I ever knew. Booker T. Washington wrote of Williams, "He has done more for our race than I have. He has smiled his way into people's hearts." Bert Williams, a man of color, was one of the top entertainers and comedians of the vaudeville area for all audiences. His story comes to life as this latest stage offering from Richmond's Quill Theater. The author and star of the production, Jeremy V. Morris, is here today along with the production's director, Dr. Tanya Pettiford-Waits. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Thank you.
We were chatting before the show. Bert Williams is he was bigger than life in his day, but now that he's been gone almost 100 years, he's kind of fallen through the cracks. What about his story attracted you?
It definitely is a timely story based on the fact that there are these renewed conversations about where we are as a country, socially, racially. This particular man had to, in order to simply do what he naturally did, to be funny, to be in front of people, making them laugh, he had to make sacrifices that cut him to the very person he was. And so with that, in order to make it so that people in the future, people like me and Dr. T here, could tell these stories, could be on stages and have it not be regulated or not have those conditions or those restrictions on it to have to caricaturize ourselves, to show a false view of one another and ourselves. He was one of the main people who was able to make it so that that could be possible for people of color in this country. And so to tell that story, because of the fact that it's kind of a hard one to look at based off of the subject matter, that's why usually these kinds of stories are forgotten and people aren't quite ready to deal with them in a certain time, and so I believe that that time has to be now.
For people who are not familiar with Bert Williams, tell us a little bit about who he was and who he was as a performer.
Well, he was born in the Bahamas, ended up coming into America at a very young age, just kind of getting a feel for something different, but the only thing that he really knew is that every time he could make somebody laugh, he felt alive. He felt like he was really doing something that he was intended for. And so he just kept following the track of what he would be able to do in order to make that happen. And so he finds himself linked up with this other vaudeville performer, a man named George Walker, and they hit it off and they find a chemistry, they find a rhythm, and it's the stars aligned. And so these two men of color at this time, at the turn of the 20th century, are able to capture white audiences, black audiences, and they're not only able to do that, but they're able to provide a different view than has been given to people of color at this point in history. And so people are seeing themselves and going, "No, I'm that person. I'm not. That's not an ugly lie that's being told about me." So it
feels very contemporary. Talk, Doctor, about the production itself.
Well, we felt that it was important, even when we did the one-man version of this show, that Bert Williams was so inspired by the cadre of other artists that he worked with, and specifically the ones that we highlight in the play. The woman that was to be his wife, Lottie Williams, is part of it, and Ada Overton, who ended up marrying George Walker. So they ended up being this kind of quartet that paved the way. I think it gave a voice and a platform for women of color as well. And it was very important because those women entirely inspired Bert and George Walker to a whole nother level in their career. They helped to open the way. So our production is definitely about Bert Williams, but is told through his memories of how he came to meet and begin to collaborate with these other three artists.
And Jeremy, you wrote this, you star in this as well. The title is called The Top of Bravery. What does that mean?
It's a quote actually taken from W.E.B. Du Bois, someone who actually throughout Bert Williams' career was very conflicted about what he was doing. He was constantly going back and forth saying, is this too much? Are we just falling back into the same
because
pattern
he performed
that
in blackface.
Yes,
right.
And so white actors, white comedians who would do this were giving a very distorted, very grotesque view of people of color in this country. And so Du Bois was debating debating with himself throughout this man's career, even though he went to see some of his shows, and said, you know, I understand what he's doing, but is this more of the same? Is this something that isn't going to be taken for what he is intending? And of course, at the end of Bert's life, he was able to concede. He said, yes, this man, and the quote is used in the end of the play, but he says, this is the top of bravery, the contributions that he's made to keep people laughing. And when it comes down to what we're going to remember and the people who furthered the conversation on unification of races in this country, we're going to look at the people who really made us laugh, who made us enjoy ourselves and made us look at one another and share a space in a theater of all places, which of course is why we do what we do. You share that space and the story is being told and the energy is being shared. And he said, this is the finest thing in that service. The finest thing in that service is making sure that everyone is in the shared space, sharing energy, and that's how
included.
we see.
Well, it is
Yes.
compelling drama, it's eye-opening drama, it's entertaining drama. Thank you so much. The Top of Bravery, the Bert Williams story, opens with a special preview performance this Thursday at 7 at Richmond Triangle Players Theater on Altamont Avenue. Then the show opens this Friday, January 13th, with performances on select dates through February 5th. We'll put a link to detailed show information on our website. Just go to WTVR.com/VTM starting early this afternoon. Thank you both for coming in to see us
Thank
today.
you. Thank
You're
you very
welcome.
much.